Hey guys, Professor Bill of Comic Book University, and in this week's Spotlight on Story, we're going to be talking about Superman and Big Barda making a porno tape. Yeah, we're actually going to get right into that. Okay, now we're going to get a lot more into exactly what really happened at the end of this video, but for now, let's just talk about what we can see, okay, what was actually given to us. My feelings on it will be at the end of this also. This is John Byrne, okay? First off, Action Comics issue number 592 and 593. That's where you're going to find this story, those two issues. Wow. There's a whole lot to unwrap here. And there's going to be some bitter pills to swallow. So basically, John Byrne, he winds up doing the story. He does all of the pencils, beautiful, beautiful pencils. He does the inking for the figures, for the actual people. Background inks, that's a different story. Background inks was actually done by, oh, for crying out loud, I've got it here. His name is Keith Williams. There we go. It's funny, you actually have to look at the book. It's not often published afterwards that this is the case, but inker, colors, Tom Zoiko, and the letters are done by John Costanza. So this is a September 1987 release, this first book, issue number 592, and it starts off with a beautiful picture of Big Barda, all right? Absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous picture, like, wow. And she takes a wrong turn and ends up in Suicide Slum. Yeah. Now, Suicide Slum is a very famous piece of city life. It's actually a part of Metropolis. Introduced in Star Spangled Comics, issue number 7 in 1942. I looked it up beforehand. I was like, I'll remember it. And I believe I did. So way back in 1942, they introduced Suicide Slum. Suicide Slum's famous, man. All right, right now, John Henry Irons Steel is there. I believe his daughter should therefore be around that area. But either way, that's where Steel is actually operating out of. On top of that, Black Lightning, throughout his history, has always been there. That's where he teaches school, or he's the principal of school, depending on what storyline. It's DC Comics, all right? Nothing sticks. Nothing sticks. Anyway, so she takes a wrong turn. She ends up in Suicide Slum by accident. It's like, what's going on here? And there's like a pimp, roughing up his hoe right there. Oh my God. This is Comic Book University, man. We're getting so banal. So anyway, so they, this is pimp, and he just sees Big Barda, and yeah, he's like, woo! And he's just kind of like mushes the other girl. Get out of here. Because if he's trying to get her to work for him. Oh, man. So anyway, she tosses him. He just goes, he puts his hand on her. He tries to grab her wrist. And she just get out of here. So he goes flying. In the distraction, some dude comes up and snatches her purse, runs away, climbs over a fence. She rips down the fence, practically eats through it. She's chasing him. He runs down a manhole cover and starts trotting through the sewers. All of a sudden, he gets eaten. Okay, he's not fully eaten, but he is completely jacked up. All right, this creature is down there in the sewers, and later on, we're going to find out it's called an ash crawler. This is a beast from the fire pits of Apocalypse. Yeah, we're going there. The new gods, baby. So there's this creature down there called Sleaze. Now, what happens is Sleaze has Barda runs down there, and she's like, what's going on? Where'd this guy go? And all of a sudden, something starts firing at her. She's like, that's the blast from my Mega Beam. She had her Mega Rod in her purse. Guys, go and check out Big Barda. 10 Things About Big Barda Explained in a Minute. It's actually about 2.5 minutes. Deal with it. 10 Things About Big Barda. Just put out the same day. It should be attached to this video. So, that's the main reason why she's running after the purse. That's where her Mega Rod is. And Sleaze gets a hold of it, and he starts, boo, boo, boo. Now, he's actually from Apocalypse. We're going to get into his story a little bit later, why he would actually know how to use a Mega Rod. Excuse me. She's dodging it. She's all over the place, and she, armor's up, bring, she's good. She's practically invulnerable as long as this thing isn't on full power. Turns out it is. And she's also distracted because mind you, she's under the impression that it's this hobo who just robbed her. You know what I'm saying? This purse snatcher. It's like, how do you learn how to use this thing? Most people don't know how to use this. So all of a sudden she's like, oh, wait, that's you, upside down, drained of your life. What the frig? And she turns around and there's this character called Sleaze who's like, getcha, zip. Gets her like just center mass and she drops unconscious. Is she as tough as Superman? Maybe. Maybe not. She had her full armor on. She was good. Anyway, so she's down there for a couple of days, and we're going to come back to what's up with her. In the meantime, Superman gets called over to Suicide Slum himself. And there's a bunch of people who are just forgotten, like homeless, and they're left there. So Superman, as Clark Kent, mind you, he's reporting on this area, and they're like, listen, all these people, they're really old and whatnot, and they're all, barely conscious. Well, on this particular vagrant, we found a birth certificate. That's convenient. And says that she's like, 120, 122 years old, something like that. It's like, wait, what? That's older than Moses. How's that possible? So it says, I don't know, but something's keeping him alive. So Clark uses his super senses. They're called super senses here. And he starts using his X-ray vision and his microscopic vision at the same time from a distance. Whatever, he's focusing it, telescoping, and it's Superman. All right, he's got omnipower, especially in his eyes. And he's looking. He's like, there's some kind of unknown radiation there that I'm not familiar with. That's interesting. So this is the stuff that's keeping them alive, but there's something wrong. Anyway, so he decides to go off and try and figure out what's going on. He's looking around. He's like, that trace radiation is all right around this general area. Seems to be focused there, somewhere in the sewers. Let's go see what's up. So he goes flying down there. Now, mind you, this is 2 days later. So as he's flying down there, we're going to switch over to Big Barda. She is in this weird kind of skimpy costume. Now, she's always got this bikini that she'll wear underneath, whatever, because she's very free with herself. But she's, for the most part, topless with these weird frills and tassels hanging down, you know what I'm saying, from her neck. So she's very topless at this point. And she's dancing. Now, that's actually really interesting because if you remember her origin story, there was actually a character, Aurelie, I think Aurelie. She was essentially one of the Furies, the female Furies, or something to that effect. But she was under Barda's leadership, and she left because she didn't want to stick around anymore. She wanted to be free, at least a little bit, at least in her mind. And she learned by hanging out with Haman. Haman is the guy who trained. He's the guy who first off created the Mother Box, and he's the greatest escape artist ever. And he's the mentor of Scott Free, making him the greatest escape artist ever. Anyway, so while she was hanging out with Haman, she learned that she loves to dance. And the Furies came in and saw that she was dancing. It's like, are you kidding me? Dancing's forbidden on Apocalypse. Lord Darkseid would have your head, and essentially does. So it's just interesting that she's dancing here, but she's being forced to. You see, Sleaze, this wretched, filthy beast who only appears in like 3 storylines of comic books ever, is eventually killed by the God Killer. So F him. Anyway, Sleaze has the ability, he's an empath with the ability to mind control you in the sense that he can bring out your deepest, darkest, most carnal desires and make you act upon them. Meanwhile, he's feeding on them. He's feeding on your misery or your joy, whatever, at acting out in your worst ever desires. So he's causing her to dance. Now, that's the way that I take it, that dancing causes her to, because that's the whole thing with Aurelie. Anyway, he also imposes himself on her, all right? Now, the only thing that we actually see is it looks like he's trying to kiss her. He's got his hand on her face and he's trying to kiss her and all that stuff. And she's resisting. And he's like, how are you even able to, resist, at least off speak? Your will is incredible. So she's like, who are you? You're saying that you're from Apocalypse? I've never heard of you before. And I grew up on Apocalypse in the slave pits. What's going on? So he says that he is an ancient creature, essentially, that sprang from the sewers in the slave pits itself of Apocalypse, and just grew from there. Anyway, he was found by Darkseid. Now, this is long before Darkseid had risen to power, long before he had any real power. So Steppenwolf, I imagine, was in power, along with his, with Darkseid's mother. And this is before he had his Omega beams, before he had anything to really speak of. So he hung out with him, and he was basically his right-hand man. Eventually, and mind you, by what Sleaze is, he loved the depravity. Darkseid eventually, through all the years, grew out of the depravity. He's just like, these, torturing people and stuff like that, it just doesn't elate me anymore. I'm looking for more. I'm looking for so much more of this. So by the time he did rise to power, he just wasn't impressed with Sleaze anymore. It's mentioned later on that, because I've heard people say, Darkseid got rid of Sleaze because Sleaze had mind control powers. He was afraid that he would eventually either find the anti-life equation, which does essentially that across the universe, or that he would eventually mind control Darkseid. No. In the following issue, it indicates that the only person who Mr. Miracle and all those know has better mind control abilities than Sleaze would be Darkseid. So Darkseid never felt any kind of jeopardy around Sleaze. That's just the impression that I've understood from what I've read. Either way, what it's actually directly indicated here is that Darkseid was just so sick of his, debaucherous ways, like carousing and more importantly, trying to hurt people and feeding off of that. He's like, you're stuck on that. You feed on, that's how you eat, whatever. Okay, but you bore me. And you disgust me, and I'm not impressed. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you're still here, and I'm so past you, man. So he banishes him. He hits him with his Omega beams. So he sends him through time and space, and he sends him back years ago, apparently, onto Earth. Now, here it just says it was years ago. In later comics, it would say it was centuries ago. So it's not necessarily contradicting. Just depends from a certain point of view. Obi-Wan. So he tells Barda this whole story. She's able to understand it. And he starts, he's like, and I'm going to have my fun with you. And she's like, no, not again. So you can derive what you want from it. We don't actually see anything. And I'm the kind of guy I want to see proofs, okay? I'm not saying I actually want to see a full-on, tape like that, but I'm just saying, okay? So, at the very least, it looks like he's kissing on her and stuff like that. And we don't know how he necessarily feeds off of their anger. Maybe it's just he just has to be close or whatever. Maybe it's through kissing. I don't know. But a lot of people said that he takes her. You know what I'm saying? I'd like to think that's not the case. And as freaky as John Byrne can be, I got to say that's simply not the case in my own headcanon. If it is in yours, that's cool. Again, we'll talk about it more later. But Superman shows up, and he's like, what the frick are you doing? Don't you realize the lady said no? And like, he goes, She I got my senses back. Aha! And she armors up, and she grabs the Mega Rod, and she's like, boo! And she's trying to shoot up Sleaze. She wants to destroy this creature. Superman is like, no, we can't do that. Now, he doesn't say why, but later on in the next comic book, he indicates, I believe that the radiation that's keeping these people alive is coming from him. in some way, shape, or form. That and we don't really find out what's going on in this or the next issue. And guys, this is actually a call out. If you guys have read other issues or something else, because Superman gets really the 2 issues from now, Superman meets up with Booster Gold, and then that issue goes over into the Booster Gold comics, so that the story bounces around there. And then the following issue is Martian Manhunter teaming up with Superman, and it's just like it's in the first appearance of Silver Banshee, which is interesting. All sorts of it just jumps around a lot. You know what I'm saying? So if you guys have read something where it says what exactly is going on with these old people in this place, and are they still there? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, he believes that that's what's keeping them alive. So he's like, no, Bart, I can't let you kill this guy. I want to keep these really ancient people still alive. So she's like, oh, I get it. You're mind controlled also, and Sleaze is messing with me. Well, even if you were the real Superman, you couldn't survive too many of these. Boo! And she's full blast hits Superman with 2 direct hits. Of the if the first one wasn't, the second one definitely was direct hits from the Mega Rod, and he's just like, "Oh, please don't!" She jacks him up. She's about to do a 3rd blow, and from what she says and from what we can see, Superman's probably going to die if she hits. Unfortunately, that ash crawler kind of bloop with a nasty little tentacle and steals the Mega Rod from her. Again, I guess she was just weak. I'm trying to make sense of everything here. A creature as strong as Wonder Woman, and yet she can't hold on to this Mega Rod, which is her best friend. I mean, come on. Anyway, the thing just kind of takes the Mega Rod from her, is able to pass it on to Sleaze, and then he blasts her too. And it's like, come on, man. Come on. So anyway, we're going to skip over to the next comic at this point. Darkseid is chilling out in scot-free Mr. Miracle's apartment. He's sitting there with a brandy snifter. He's like, oh, scot-free, how are you? There's a complicated lock where there's a time limit in order for scot-free or anybody to actually get into the door. And it looks like a basic wooden door. It's the funniest thing. Anyway, just to keep him testing, whatever. Anyway, he goes in and Darkseid's sitting there, reclining on his Barca lounger. So, are you kidding me, Darkseid? What are you doing? Little Oberon is there. He's like, hey man, you better tell me what's going on. Where's Barda? It's like, yes. Keep being tougher than your pay grade. That's the only reason why I keep you alive. He's like, Scott, listen, I had nothing directly to do, even though indirectly I did, with Barda's loss. I'm just saying, my agents, my top sleuth agents on Earth, they came across this tape in a particular adult store on Hobbs Avenue. He's like, Hobbs Avenue? That's on the edge of Suicide Slum. What's going on? So basically, I want you to understand what happened here. Darkseid's agents were looking at porn. They were going in there, they were shopping for porn, and they apparently found everything. They found this new tape and what's going on? And they see Big Barda. So Scott's watching this, Oberon's watching this, we can only see their reactions. It looks like they're trying to figure out what's going on. It looks like it's Barda. Oh wait, that is Barda. What's that thing she's wearing? Oh, why does it look like is she dancing? Why does it look like she's in a sewer? And all of a sudden oh, now, they indicate in the later on in this issue that there were 2 parts to this tape that they were watching. So maybe the first part was just her dancing. Maybe the second part was more than her just dancing. Okay, but all of this was apparently in the sewer. So apparently this is Sleaze kissing up on her and stuff like that. Don't know. Don't care. Okay, it's John Byrne and his ridiculously sick, perverted mind. Okay. Loves me some Mr. Miracle and Big Barda. And again, since I know that Big Barda, her actual character comes from Roz, Jack Kirby's wife. So that, a little bit bothers me, just a little bit. I actually have right here, Lanny Kazan is actually the figure that she was based off of, that Big Barda's look was based off of, but her actual attitude and everything like that was for the most part based off of Roz, Jack Kirby's wife. So doing something like that is kind of really disrespectful on John Byrne's part, in my opinion. It's like still keeping around Funky Flashman, which is Jack Kirby, when he was alive, obviously, making fun of Stan Lee. Yeah, well, Stan Lee's old now at the time of this recording. He just has filed a restraining order against his manager, and there's reports of elder abuse with a lot. I've got some stuff up on my channel about what I'm hearing directly from people who've been there and seen at that latest convention, what's going on. So anyway, still keeping around Funky Flashman, I think, is kind of twisted in and of itself. It's time to just retire that character and never bring that character out again, because it's disrespectful. Same thing with John Byrne treating these characters like that. Anyway, that's just my opinion. Moving on. So we see that Scott Free is going to run over and see what the heck is going on. So he goes over there and he flies in on his aero discs, and he lands, and he's like, Mother Box is saying that there's no direct threat, no immediate threat. And he's immediately attacked by hobos. So by no immediate threat, later on we realize that Mother Box is saying, no, man, it's nothing you can't handle. So these hobos, these bums on the street, I don't like to usually make fun of comics, but I really have to make fun of this one, okay? They grab him. They're all like, and you know what? I get it. I'm going to make fun of it, but there's going to be an excuse for why this stuff happens. They come up and they're like mob mentality. Get him. So they grab it. And it actually says over and over, get him. So they grab him. They smack him over the head. They're like, hit him. Throw him in the trash. Throw more trash in there. So they throw him in a dumpster. They start throwing more trash to pile it in. Close it up, seal it. They're saying all this stuff. Close it. One of the bums comes over. He's got a welding torch, a welder's mask, and he's got a welder's apron on. Dude's got, I think he had the gloves too. Dude's decked out. It's this guy's a bum. He's a bum on the streets. Somehow, okay, I'm going to let it go because, anyway, just really quick, they throw him... They seal him up and they throw him into the Hudson Bay. You know what I'm saying? Interesting. So, yeah, Scott Free, of course, escapes. He's the ultimate escape artist. I mean, Batman's got nothing on him. Yes, Batman's natural abilities are technically better than Scott Free's natural abilities because he's Batman. But aside from that, no. No. Scott Free is the greatest in the universe at escaping. It's because he uses natural abilities and Mother Box, and nobody has an affinity with their Mother Box the way that Scott has with his. So, enough defending these characters. Scott gets out, he's like, yep, Mother Box said, no immediate threat, because these guys aren't a threat to me. So you're wondering, where does these bums get why they attack him, all this stuff. Well, it turns out later on that Sleaze admits that I actually set an army up to go after, Scott Free, because I knew that he'd be coming pretty soon. I know that's Big Barda, and I know that Scott Free, Mr. Miracle, is going to show up at any moment and try and rain on my parade. And he did. So he had that army, the army of bums, to try and stop him. So I imagine he supplied them with the blowtorch. He was mind controlling them, all that stuff, Easy enough to understand. Anyway, so... Scott Free is looking in from a skylight, and he sees that Superman is kissing up on his wife. It's like, what is this? What's going on here? So, Big Barda was already captured, okay? And now Superman was captured also. Since he was unconscious, he wasn't able to use his, what's that called? Toracum Vo? I think that's the one that's the mental. Anyways, Superman has two forms of martial arts. One of them is a physical, kung fu stuff. The other one is actually an ability to make a maze in your mind so that it's ridiculously hard for someone to try and read your thoughts, even, God forbid, mind control you. So even Martian Manhunter has a hard time reading Superman's thoughts unless Superman permits it. So he's able to resist this stuff even better than Big Barda. And like I said, Barda was resisting like you wouldn't believe. So that's also one of the reasons why I believe, come on now. Anyway, so Superman, like they're trying to make this porno movie, this adult film. And Superman is resisting big time. Like, he's sweating and everything. I guess they gave him a little blue pill to go with his big red cape. And just saying. And he's trying to resist, and Sleaze is like, wow, man, this guy's really tough. But I'm going to bring out your deepest, darkest, basest, desires, and I'm going to make you act on them. So Superman winds up, he's like, all right, fine. You know what I'm saying? He was acting like a slab of beef, as he was called before. And suddenly he rises to the occasion. So these two are kissing passionately, heatedly on the bed. Mr. Miracle's like, yeah, cut. He breaks through, he jumps down, and he starts beating up on everybody. Sleaze is like, I'm out. So Scott's like, smacking around everybody else, and he's getting ready to go after Sleaze, and all of a sudden, the ash crawler jumps him. He's like, oh my God, this thing's 10 times stronger than a regular human being, and I'm only twice as strong as a human being, so what am I going to do? And Big Barda's like, I'll take that. And she's like, this thing's got a little tiny organ. That's what they said, but no, I'm not going to go there. That acts as its brain. And I have to get past its tentacles, get in there, and okay, it's dead. And while she was doing that, Superman flew off after Sleaze. Now, Sleaze gets away, but not too far. He goes back into the sewers, and Superman's like, aha, a lot of lead pipes, but I use my super hearing and my super smell. Yeah, that's a thing, guys. That's a thing. Don't fart around Superman. In fact, since Superman can hear a pin drop on the other side of the planet, he smells it every time that you pass gas. Give you a moment to think about that. Anyway, so, for crying out loud. Where does my mind go sometimes? So he winds up catching up to Sleaze eventually, but Sleaze is like, I've got a trick up my sleeve, actually my pocket. It's called a match. Are you a match for a match? And he lights the match on the wall. Boom. Apparently Superman didn't realize that there was methane or something like that down there, talking about passing gas. And the whole sewer area blows up. Manhole covers all around, like for 10 square blocks in Suicide Slum, which is about the area of Suicide Slum. It's about 10 square city blocks, according to Superman. Dying here. And, it blows up, and he's like, I can't see right, darn it. And Sleaze apparently dies. He appears again later on, apparently dies there, appears in the Crisis books, and then he's one of the Countdown books, actually, Countdown to Crisis, and he's killed by the God Killer. So, oh yeah, he's dead. He's dead. Anyhow, so Superman goes flying back. His cape is like in shreds because of the fire and everything like that. And he's like, all right, well, we took care of that. But wait a second, my memories. Bart, I remember you and I doing something. She's like, yeah, me too, Superman. There was something there. But since I'm clad at all, so I don't really want to think about it, I'm leaving with my husband. Bye. And he's like, okay. And Mr. Miracle's like, mother fathead, I'll give you a kryptonite boot to the butt. So they all leave, and that's pretty much it. Clark Kent does go back, and he's like, oh, Doc, I heard all your patients are dead. Like, no, they're okay. They're right in there. What are you talking about? And he's like, oh, I thought that if Sleaze would have died, that they'd be okay. Because apparently, while he absorbs the depravity from people, he releases senses of good. So an energy, it releases as pure life energy. So since he was situated under there, then they're still, that's how come they were still alive after all that time. Excuse me. So, like I said, he didn't actually die. So maybe that's why they were still alive. But instead, he was like, well, there must be something else keeping them alive. I wonder what's going on. Maybe that was John Byrne's weird way of saying, no, Sleaze will be back. And whose wife is he gonna? Let's go mess with Sue Dibney, for crying out loud. Like, there's always this marriage is supposed to be a sacred thing, and these guys, you know what? I think that maybe John Byrne had some marital problems. I don't know what's up. But apparently he didn't like the idea of people being married. Okay, Anyway, so that's pretty much it. That's the story. Now, people are like, oh, they definitely made a porn tape. Well, there was no visuals of that. Plus, if a porn tape was made, okay, because only one tape actually got made and released, and Scott got to see that. So now, here's the thing. It wasn't with Superman, okay, because Superman was captured after or as, Scott had seen the tape. So, it wasn't Superman. That would have meant it's some regular mortal. I'm just saying. First off, Big Barda is strong enough to resist, this stuff in like major ways that they were surprised. And that's just for dancing. You know what I'm saying? So for sleeping with somebody else, I think she'd maybe be a little bit more likely to resist. I'm just saying. On top of that, I don't want to get into the functions of what you call it, but, we like to talk about how Superman and Lois Lane would never work because, come on, she'd be killed. She'd be killed. You know what I'm saying? Well, likewise, how's a guy gonna, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're not meant to. All right? I'm just going to leave it at that. But I want to talk about what's considered canon at this point, regardless, okay? Even if John Byrne's intent would say, yep, Superman got with Big Barda because F Jack Kirby and his wife. That'd be messed up. Okay, this was, what did I say? It was 1987? Did I say this was? Yep, 1987. Jack Kirby didn't die until 1992. So I'm just saying, it's kind of messed up. Dude was still alive. Talking about somebody else slept with your wife. That's kind of messed up. But let's get into actual what is and what is not canon. Everything is canon and nothing is canon. Now, I think that a lot of you guys went, maybe raised a rock-style eyebrow when I said that Superman's cape was destroyed in the fire. Look, it was a concentrated fire. You know what I'm saying? It was stuck inside the sewers. The fire wasn't going to be able to go too many places. It destroyed 10 city blocks worth of stuff. But at the same time, it's also said that Superman's cape is indestructible. So I get how hot that fire must have been. It's still not going to be plasma hot. Okay? It's still not going to be melt all the steel in the sewers or melt the concrete hot. You know what I'm saying? It'll clean the sewers, you know what I'm saying, until the next flooding. But hot enough to destroy Superman's cape that came from Krypton and absorb the same energy he did, so it's completely invulnerable to all sorts of damage? That seems kind of strange. Oh, you could say it was a substitute cape. Okay, sure, for some reason he had a substitute cape. Hey, there was one time when they were writing the Avengers comics and Captain America, they were talking about, lasers can cut through anything. That was the idea that non-scientists believed back then in the mid-60s, early 60s. And it's like, so Captain America was stuck inside of, there's like the laser bars, and he stuck his shield out, and the shield got destroyed. It got, like, incinerated. It's like, what? And then later on, when they said, oh, no, it's made out of vibranium, and it's like an alloy of steel and vibranium, or is it iron and vibranium? Anyway, and yes, iron and vibranium, and some unknown catalyst, and, so... it's like it's indestructible. It's literally it's stronger than adamantium. It's as strong as Uru, forged in the heart of all that good stuff. Well, they said, it was for some reason, Captain America had a dummy shield. That's what it was. He decided to bring a fake shield with him for that particular mission. Sure he did. Anyhow, here, maybe he decided to bring a fake cape. Either way, if he's got a fake cape, you know what I'm saying? Or more specifically, if Superman had his cape destroyed, but that's not in canon, that can't actually be, well, then that wasn't really, what you think might have happened with the Big Barda tape. I'm just saying. I'm defending my girl, all right? I'm defending my girl. You could say, that was a fake cape, but what happened to Barda was real. Okay, what happened to Barda was real. But it was a follower. How do you like that? That's right. Because just like Marvel has LMDs, DC, the Fourth World books, the New Genesis and Apocalypse, they have what's called followers. That's DC's version of LMDs. So then that was an LMD. Oh. No, seriously. When you look at it, to me, it's really depraved. And And I just don't think anything like that is necessary. There's so many reasons why there's no way that happened, that maybe it was just, hot and heavy kissing like we actually saw. It clearly didn't get very far at all. Superman did not sleep with her. That's a fact. Suggesting that somebody else did is, no, I'm not buying it. I'm simply not buying that. But even just the idea of the story, yeah, it's in the comic books, but lots of things get retconned, and lots of things people are like, no, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I just did KG Beast being killed by Batman, that was later retconned and whatnot. Batman's got his one rule. I don't believe that he would have done that. So one writer decided to make that happen. All the other writers have said no, so he's outnumbered. Likewise here. John Byrne has done some very silly things before, and I think that this is probably one of the pinnacle of his silly things. And yeah, it is what it is. So here's the story. Read into it what you choose to read into it. I literally look at it as this was a kind of a silly story. But you do get a full Mr. Miracle background. You do get, so if you didn't read it before, and you also get a brand new character in Sleaze, which is interesting. It's very interesting because if his life, by him absorbing all of this energy and then releasing pure life energy that's able to keep old people alive past 120 some odd years old, maybe that's one of the reasons why he was banished by Darkseid from Apocalypse also. Who knows? So there's a lot to be able to try and read into and understand with this story regardless. And that is one of the staples of John Byrne. He's not going to just explain everything to you. You have to figure a lot of this stuff out for yourself. So I appreciate that much. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. I hope you enjoyed this week's Spotlight on Story, the born date. Either way, whatever you're going to take out of this, you can't really take out the idea that Superman and Big Barda actually slept with each other, because no, they absolutely did not. All right? Anything else that may or may not have happened just looks like hot and heavy kissing to me, is what it is. All right, guys, that's it for me. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.